salary ordinance change on the highway
whiskey
department,
tasting,
they
but-
went ahead and reduced it.
Yes.
Are there any rules against that?
Oh, okay, I see that, all right.
And then on the back, there's the estimated property tax levy limits and circuit breaker reduction review.
Okay. Are you gonna talk about that?
The report's just there. I asked Dan, I said, what do we do with this? And he said, basically,
Did you tell your wife that, Jason? Did you tell your wife that story?
Yeah, what you said.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
You
All
know,
right,
you
so
know
I'll
what
know
his
when I
comment
get
was
there.
to me?
That's,
He goes, why would we send you to a 1970s hospital where you share a room with somebody else and
Okay.
they're going to do the same thing we're doing here? At least you're in a
gonna be
nice
here.
place. I said, you've got to be
Okay, all right.
joking me, right? And you're my doctor? Are
no,
you kidding me?
they're in Hollywood. Yeah, he texted and
And one day
emailed,
he's-
said he wouldn't be here.
At
When? Recently? She's going to,
June,
for Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, I know.
July
Is she
1st.
going to
and-
be on it tonight?
Well, they're taping it. I
was
mean,
in
it's an
Spain for
episode they're
17 days in
taping. They're
June,
taping a
so-
true episode of the show.
Spain?
And I don't know
She
if
went
there's,
somewhere a
Her,
month or
trust
so
me.
ago, I guess, audition.
yep, and this is an actual taping of the episode, so,
did I miss something? I left you a present
2
for
minutes.
next to Brian.
okay.
Doesn't mean you have to sit next to him, but.
What does, do you know what this is about?
The nurse isn't great. I had no idea what to do with me.
No, when I looked in my packet and I didn't really, I
Going
couldn't really
to.
see any, I didn't see a letter.
A gift for you. They sent one for me, one for council president, one for commissioners president.
What, tell me a little bit. I know it's,
Yeah, they sold the pickup truck
okay.
that had been sitting out here.
Sort of there, because I couldn't sit.
Last month.
Go Indy,
Just to
for another
finish out his year.
department.
4 hours. I'm at
When
the
they sold the
neurosurgeon.
vehicles.
2 hours later, scheduled for emergency surgery the next day.
Back to the general fund,
Yeah.
and now he needs it in his fund. So it's really not a new money.
No,
It's
I don't
money
think
that's,
So what are
okay.
they gonna do with it?
I think he's gonna lease another vehicle.
She
And
does
apply
know
it
Dr.
towards
Savage.
that?
Yeah, we'll ask when he gets it.
Yeah, for the
Frank and Stein. You ever heard of them in Carmel?
How do you feel now? You have relief?
It's still, I mean, like
All right.
a back.
Well, if everyone's ready, we want to welcome everyone out to the meeting of the Morgan County Council for August 7th, 2023. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer. Jason, would you like to lead us in prayer, please? See, I said your name right this time. Not in prayer, pledge. Pledge. Vicki will lead us in prayer.
I pledge allegiance to
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you that we're allowed to assemble here together in a free country. We thank you for those who protect us on a daily basis. We thank you for those that are healing, dear Lord, from complications of recent. We pray for those who are sick and hurt now that they receive the treatment that they need and that they will be okay. Dear Lord, we just thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, and all that you give us in life. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Vicki. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes from the July 5th meeting? Were there any questions, changes? Hearing none, I look for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes for July 5th.
I'll second.
Jason Maxwell seconds. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Yeah. Yeah, let the record show that 6 council members are in attendance. Chip Keller is out this evening due to another engagement, but the rest of us are here. We're going to begin with the additional appropriations, and it looks like our county coroner is up first. Did he? There. Didn't see where you went. Good evening.
Good evening, council. How are y'all? God bless you all, and I'm glad to see Troy here. Come before you too. I had sent in a letter for an appropriation for on my failure at the beginning of the year, I didn't know I had to have a line item for a leased vehicle because I had been blessed with a new one. And so this is hopefully going to carry us through to the end of the year to take care of that, and it'll be on the new budget for next year that's being submitted.
Is that the amount that was received on the truck? Do you know? That 6,500 was, because I see in your print down here it says,
I don't have it with me on the exact amount that we received for the truck, but we're also going to get a new van for what was received for the truck. So this is to cover when the van
rid of
comes.
then from the truck. Okay.
Deb says we received like 34,000-ish.
See, I'm glad they know the numbers.
So will there then be two vehicles and you've had only one? Is that what, okay.
We had the truck and we have a white van that's a 2009 that's been around since 2009.
Yes.
And it's starting to cost money and repairs and everything else. And because the truck was new and hardly driven, it carried what looks like going to be both of them
Okay.
into this enterprise lease agreement.
And have you, just because we are at budget time, have you put those both items in your budget for?
I'm putting the cost on the new line item that I'm going to have that I've not had before.
Okay. Did anyone have questions on this? The request for an additional appropriation for $6,500 for a lease vehicle? No questions? I'll look for a motion.
Troy Smrek will make the motion to approve that additional appropriation for $6,500.
Thank you, Troy. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Melissa Green will second.
Melissa, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you
sir.
very much. Good to see you.
And looks like commissioners are up next. You don't look like a commissioner.
When we have to ask for money, they make me come. So our first additional appropriation is related to our enterprise fleet. I think we've talked about this once before. I know we talked about the commissioners meeting. Instead of applying our vehicles, what we sold to our new leases, they receipted the money back to us. Once we receipted it, we have to reappropriate it now. So this is to reappropriate the proceeds from the vehicles we got rid of to apply them to our new vehicles.
Okay. And I think, did everyone get a copy of the letter that stipulates which vehicles were sold and the amounts received? So that totals those amounts. Did anyone have questions or comments on this transfer, correct? No, it does count as an
It's an
additional
additional,
because
right.
it came in, okay.
So, and as a reminder, because you may be familiar with it, you may not, the way this program works, a lot of counties around the state are doing it now. So over time, you're going to essentially approach a level state of profits and losses. But you start turning over your fleet, you get to buy on the front end with the government discount. Enterprises leverages their network across the country to understand when it's time to get rid of a vehicle. They help us with monitoring them through telematics, mileage, and all that. Then we sell them at what we think the market is a peak. So far, everything we've sold since I've been here, we've profited. You roll that back into your next lease, and so every time you roll it over, you should be buying down a lease more and more each time. And it's not really a lease. We call it a lease because we're not amortizing it to zero. But as a county government, we own it.
Everyone understand that? Okay. Hearing no questions, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to appropriate the additional $32,333.41 from the general fund into the vehicle lease rental account.
Vicky Kivett seconds that motion.
I just want to clarify, we rounded up a little bit. It's 32,334 according to the agenda. So just to clarify the amount.
I was reading directly from
That's
you.
all right.
Okay.
You seconded.
Yes.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, sir.
Great, thank you. Next one's me too. So when we approved the aquifer study last year, it was post-budget time. We appropriated it maybe November, December, somewhere around there. We never reappropriated it this year, so this is just continue on with the project that's already been approved.
Both the aquifer study and the wastewater study.
The wastewater study is, we didn't have it approved at budget time, but we have approved it now. We're moving forward with it. And that's kind of along a similar vein, what we're doing with our aquifer. We're studying where would be the most strategic places around the county. And it may be partnering with the municipality. It may be that we need to do our own investment. But where would be the most strategic places to help expand sewer capacity in the county for economic development?
How long of a study is this? How long does it,
The
2 years?
the wastewater will be about 6 months. The aquifer study was a couple of years, and we're, about 9 months into that, 9 months to a year, somewhere there.
Are there any questions or comments in regard to that amount of the $1,224,647?
It's ARPA money. Vicky Kivett makes a motion that we approve the appropriation as presented.
Melissa Green will second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Josh. Now we can move on to the parts I like, transfers. So EMA. You're like me, you're gonna have to move that down some.
Hey, my name's Abby. I'm with Emergency Management. I think I've met most of you.
Yeah.
We are here requesting a transfer of $11,000 from the line item 23,300, which is a repair maintenance supplies line item, to line item 36,300, which is a repair maintenance line item. This is for replacement of batteries within our tornado sirens throughout the county. And the reason for the transfer is the not only cost of battery, but additionally the cost of installation and labor for those batteries.
How often, or how long do those last? I mean, how? Yeah. I was just getting an idea of how often we can expect that cost.
They last about 3 years, and we've bought, at a minimum, 2 new sirens every year for the last 5 years. We have 2 more coming this year, and we've got a $250,000 grant out for more sirens to put at, if we get the grant, we'll have one at every school in Morgan County.
Okay.
The reason for our transfer is because the line item we want to transfer from is only for equipment. The line item we're transferring to covers equipment
And maintenance.
labor.
Okay. All right. Did anyone have any questions? Hearing none, we look for a motion.
Troy Sprinkle will make the motion to approve the transfer.
Jason Maxwell seconds.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. And economic development. Now we get a commissioner.
The wrong one, because the park master is not here. But I know that he has been working very diligently to try to get Waverly Park in top shape for the end of September when they have a lot of their events. And what he's doing here is just moving money to help with supplies and the repairs. And then we have to cover Valita and the rest of them through workman's comp. So we're transferring to cover our statutory obligations.
Okay. Do you want to do these one at a time or in a total? Team? We can take them one at a time. So we have a request for transfer from contractual services of $12,000 to supplies, repair, and maintenance. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, I look for a motion.
Vicky Kivett makes a motion, we approve the request as presented.
Kim Meredith will second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. for the 12,000, 6-0. The next one up is contractual services of 1,350 to workman's compensation for 1,350.
Hope will make the motion to make that transfer.
Melissa Green will second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Looks like the jail. Mr. Rogers.
It's like it's gonna be workman's comp night.
It does.
We're also short in workman's comp in the lit, so we're asking to transfer 237779 out of our food service contract, which we have plenty of money sitting in there right now, over to workman's comp in the 1170-380 account.
Is this due to an audit or something? Why is there a
No,
difference?
it's just, it was just shorted a little bit, just because of the amount of staff that's within lit public safety, so it
Okay.
really was, it happens from year to year periodically.
You make adjustments in your budget to
Yeah,
keep up with that for next year?
yep.
Okay. Any questions on the transfer from food service of 2,377.79 to workman's compensation?
Troy Schmirk will make the motion to approve the transfer.
Thank you, Troy. We have a motion.
Jason Maxwell seconds.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Dave. We have a salary ordinance amendment. Page here. Josh, are you going to talk to us about that, or?
I told him, he said, you want to talk about this, or you want to, and I'm gonna let him talk about it, but anytime I ask for a reduction, I'm gonna be up here.
Yeah, I bet you are. And I don't know if everybody's got the revised agenda, but we had already had the engineer position on there, but they've also added the highway superintendent.
Yes, because you guys have been so good to us, we wanted to make sure and bring a gift of our own to you.
Appreciate that.
So we are asking to lower the amounts in the salary ordinance for the engineer position to $105,000 and for the highway superintendent to $87,000. We feel that we can fill both of those roles and get a good quality candidate at those amounts, and that still gives us room to grow as we keep moving those departments forward.
Great.
As they earn and do more things within the specific needs of a highway engineer or a highway superintendent, then we can come back and present to the council. You know, everybody's getting 4%, but they got this, this, and this. And that will be the basis of arguments to, in the future.
Right, we go back through the WIS study to,
It's not gonna start them out where
right.
we ended off.
We appreciate that.
We don't have everything that is needed to be what we felt at that level.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Build
good.
incentive base to continue your.
Angle that, Carrie. Yep.
Talked earlier this week or last week just about prospects for those openings.
Yep.
And I know for the engineer position, you had a really good candidate or a couple.
Yep, we have an accepted offer, because I don't know that he's told his employer yet. I'm not going to share his name. But yes, we do have an accepted position for the highway engineer, which we're excited about. Starts at the end of the month. We have the highway superintendent job posted, and that'll close in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Why the engineer wasn't exactly thrilled, because he had actually looked at the salary ordinance. I told him, how hard can it be? We don't even own a train.
That's getting old, Connor. Can you get some new material?
Yes.
Were there any other questions or comments? Yeah, me too, Troy. Hearing none, I look for a motion.
Well, considering how I felt about this at budget time last year, I will make the motion to approve the salary ordinance amendment for the highway department, the engineer position, and the superintendent salary as noted here.
Vicky Kivett will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Next up is the Job Maintenance Committee. Doree,
So about a week and a half ago, I think we had a meeting with the Job Maintenance Committee, and I do still have more coming, but they haven't come back from WIS, and they have not been 100% improved by the department heads. So I do have more coming, just to warn you. The first one that I have tonight is to do with EMA. We had a request, well, first of all, we have received notification that we will be losing our EMA director at the end of this year, and we will also be losing the deputy director, I believe. So when this position was originally done, they were wanting the deputy director to be full-time and the administrative assistant to be part-time, but because of the way that worked out and who could do the job and who could help, they switched it. So the deputy director was part-time and the admin assistant was full-time. So now for next budget year, they're going to switch that back so that the director will stay as is, the deputy director will now be full-time, and the admin assistant will be part-time. Because what is necessary is someone that can make the decisions to be there more frequently. And Mark and Abby are here tonight if you have any questions for them about that.
I just want to say, I know retirement's always a great option, but Mark, I have been very impressed with you and your skill set, and especially most recently with the tornado. I just thought you were phenomenal, and we're going to miss you.
yes, you will be missed, sir. Now, as far as pay, how does that change as far as pay scale, going from
Yes, well, they did the job description, so I believe, stay in the same pay grades. So the deputy director's position is not changing where it's at, it's just going to be full-time hours instead of part-time. So right now, they're doing like 29 hours, up to 29 hours a week, and it would go to 35.
So from 20 to 35?
And, keep in mind, with the last census, Morgan County went over 72,000 people, which gets us 50% of those salaries back.
That's what I was getting ready to ask about the,
So
okay.
when you look at the
I knew
salaries,
it was,
you're only doing half. So when we take admin to part-time at that salary rate, take the deputy director to full-time at their new salary rate, it only makes a few $1,000s difference. It's not like a huge difference.
okay.
I don't know the exact figure, but.
And then are these numbers reflected in our binders with our budget numbers, or
Yes,
have those been adjusted yet?
And the request for next year, the numbers are reflected.
They
in
do
there.
reflect those,
Right.
these new, okay,
And
good,
when I come for the meeting, we'll have the difference laid out
okay,
for you.
good.
But I needed Davey when I took over full-time, and we had talked with Commissioner Collier, and in order to get Davey to keep him, because he couldn't come full-time, we left him part-time.
Okay,
But that job really, especially after this last tornado, we were all three out in the field, but the admin should be the EOC manager, so the director and deputy director are in the field, where they can actually make the decisions and have the clout to do it. So that's the big change.
okay.
No, it's fine.
Do we need to vote on this?
We do. I do have one more request, though. As I was sitting in the commissioners' meeting this morning, I realized I didn't put this on the commissioners' agenda today.
Okay.
That was my fault. So whatever motion you make, if you could make it contingent upon what the commissioners do at their next meeting, I don't think that we will have an issue with it.
Or could it be tabled until our next meeting so that they can do what they need to
That,
do?
that's
I mean,
up to
it's-
you, because we were trying to get these done before the budget hearings.
Oh, and that wouldn't, is there, okay.
Because they'll have a meeting in 2 weeks. So, yeah.
Thoughts, comments, anyone? I hadn't really had a chance to review what it did to the budget numbers, is why I was a little hesitant.
We had quite a bit of discussion in the committee meeting, and it is a very low impact on the budget.
Okay.
But there, in terms of continuity, there were a lot of things in play that will make some of that continuity stay in place.
Okay. So you feel good about it? All right. I trust you guys. That's why you're on that committee. So, anything else for us to read before we take a vote here? So, any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we'll look for a motion on the, gotta get my bearings here. New position in the health, EMA, sorry. Not new position, but adjustment in the, full-time, part-time. So the director stays full-time, deputy director will go from part-time to full-time, and the administrative position will go from full-time to part-time. Look for a motion.
Hope will make the motion to approve those changes.
Vicky Kivett will second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
I
the
have one more.
explanation. Go right ahead.
This is with the Board of Health.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you
We
need to
do
make
need
that
to-
contingent?
Yes, we do need to adjust. Can you adjust that so that it's contingent upon the vote of the,
We need, that motion is contingent upon the approval of the commissioners.
you're still seconding
I
that?
still
as
second
presented?
that motion.
Okay. All those in favor as changed to contingent upon the commissioners, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It's still carried 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
The next one I have is the Assistant Public Health Preparedness and Response Coordinator. This is one that would be, we currently have Steve Lyday as a full-time position in this, and with the new money that will be coming to the Board of Health, I believe it's SBO 4, they are asking that we create a part-time position for the coordinator to have assistance when we have major events. And Steve is here if you have any questions for him. I think he sent you in your packet a letter about the
Yes.
grants that this would affect and some of those important things.
Again, this is in those changes with the health department, correct?
Correct.
And as we all were at the meeting where, or some of us, I think, were, where it gave us how the funding is going to change on that as well. Did you have anything for us? Or you're just there for questions?
In case you have questions.
Did anyone have questions on that? Just, did it show what salary? I don't see that on here.
20, was it 21?
20-something. 20.
20 and change, is that?
Yeah, I think it's under
20,
21 if I remember correctly.
Okay. And it's 20 hours a week, correct?
Yes.
I feel like there's additional information here that I don't recall us discussing.
Right, he sent that, I let him know what the job maintenance committee, what their questions and concerns were. And so he sent that with Dr. Broderick's approval to have that included in your packet.
Okay.
So what's this?
Hopefully that clarified why my need for a part-time person.
Greatly.
Is there going to be room for a desk up there?
Good question. We talked about that, and the most part, I think, we'll be able to use a table in the EOC unless they have something going on. Then, yeah, well, she can share my desk, or whoever the person is, share my desk across from me until we get our new home determined.
And this is going on next year's budget?
Correct.
This is not for
Starting in
this year.
January.
It's January 1st, okay.
And is this something we have to vote on this evening, or?
No, once again, we were just working to get it ready for you by budget time.
Was,
So you don't know how much money you're getting yet, right?
As far as the grant,
Right.
well, the grant, it's already been determined. So, you know, on my salary right now is being partially paid out of the grant until the first year, then it's switched.
And this position will be paid out.
Yes, my position will become full-time with the health department, and my grant that I get from base will pay for the part-time individual.
Did that make sense? Starting in January, if this position is allowed to happen, it will be funded by the grant.
Right.
But what happens when
100%
grant money
though.
goes away?
Well, okay, with new money coming in from the health department, my position now is currently partially paid by the base grant from Indiana Department of Health and supplemented by the city's readiness initiative grant. After the first year, when the health department receives the additional funding, my position will be paid solely under that. So that will leave the money that we've been paying my current salary with under the base and the CRI grant will be used to fund the position, the part-time position with me. So it really doesn't change the cash flow at all. If the grant goes away, then it's easier to do away with that position, which I sincerely doubt the grant will ever go away. So that's where we're using the money to fund this. It's not, the additional funding for the part-time person technically is not coming from the health department, new health department funding. My position's being transitioned over to that.
Okay.
Does that clarify it?
what percentage of grant would fund this new part-time position?
That'd all be done by the grant, by the base grant and the CRI grant.
So there
See,
would
because
be,
it's currently funding majority, probably 3/4 of my salary now at 35 hours. This person will be 20 hours, period. And there might even be weeks if the individual doesn't even achieve that. So, and no benefits. So there is a difference in the amount of money being paid to the part-time person than there is my position, because you don't have the benefits and all that. So the part-time position will be totally funded by the base grant, probably in the long run, the base grant and part of the CRI grant.
at no expense to our general fund then, is what I'm hearing.
No, neither position would be any.
Okay,
So no additional cost, and we're getting a person.
yeah, 20 hours, part-time, is what he's asking for.
Salary be the same as other part-time in the county, or is it a different?
I think it's a little bit higher, like the highway and the highway assessor, plan commission had theirs around $19. And I think this is a little bit higher than that.
It's right at 21.
It's calling for some specific things
Like certifications.
that would make it higher.
And once again, it's funded totally by that grant, so.
Okay with it myself, as long as it's.
There's no cost to the county basically at all.
And from what I'm reading here is that if we don't do it, at some point, we're gonna be in violation of the terms of the grant, if they change that.
Well, the current grant, part of it, they said no, and part of it said they had to be a staff member. And right now, we're able to go without it being a staff member, but it's coming.
Okay.
You know, there was a big argument and disagreement between myself and my colleagues with the state, and they rescinded that. But it's coming. COVID, they learned a lot of lessons during COVID that people in my position were armies of one, which did not work well, especially when that individual succumbed to COVID and they were left rudderless. So there's a lot of changes coming along the state for some redundancy, some backup, and quite frankly, folks, I'm getting to the end of my rodeo. I'm going to be able to retire anytime after this November, and no one knows where everything's at.
Right.
I mean, I've been an Army of one, and it's very highly technical position, and you just don't hire anybody off the street to do it. If I started this job now, instead of 10 years ago, I don't think I'd have been qualified for it, to be honest with you, just from what I've learned in the 10 years I've been here. So there is a bit of mentoring that has to go along in education. You just can't go to school and get a degree in preparedness.
So is that part of your long-term goal then, for whoever steps into this position, to maybe be mentored by you to take on your position when you retire?
Exactly. I don't plan on going anywhere for a few more years. So this individual, I have a person that I would like to see apply for it that's been with me now for about 6 years and knows a good portion of the job already. However, it's got to be offered to everybody. I understand that. But again, I don't think anyone's going to be able to walk off the street with the qualifications needed to do this.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So we're looking for a motion to approve the Assistant Public Health Preparedness Response Coordinator, 20 hours per week.
Brian Culp will make that motion.
Green will second.
Thank you, Brian. Melissa? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then,
And now we have Dan.
yes, where is Dan? Oh, there he is, back there. Dan, you want to talk to us about levy freeze, rate changes, and ordinance? Sounds like a barrel of fun.
We're all on the edge of our seat.
I think in the back of your packets, everybody have this.
Well, the one item that we were waiting on to determine how much, if any, that the levy freeze rate could be reduced was released last Wednesday, I believe.
Hang on
Yeah.
just a minute, Dan. There's a page in front of that, in front of this, that you'll want to look at with Dan's.
It's got the paper.
got the
Linda,
whole punch.
Linda, she's really cutting her budget back. She doesn't buy full paper. She gets paper that has hose in it. Unbeknownst to me, this was up here when I pressed the button to print, and I thought, holy cow, what is this? So there is this one sheet that I put together to try to explain what their options are for the levy freeze rate. The state budget agency last week released the estimates for the 2024 lit money. And using that, I backed into, if you will, or extrapolated what the estimate for the 2024 lit levy freeze distribution will be. And you will see down under note 1 where I took the levy freeze rate falls under that broad category called expenditure rate. And the county, its estimate, and I say estimate, I've never known that the actual amounts have ever varied from the estimates, but there's always that possibility. But the estimate for 2024 in the expenditure rate money that the county will receive, that we're to receive $26,200,194. The total Morgan County lit expenditure rate is 1.218. And you divide that 26 million by that rate, that will give you the amount per $1 of rate, which is $21,510,833. Multiply that times the lit levy freeze rate, the current one, which is 0.218. That gives us $4,689,362 that'll be received in 2024 for the lit levy freeze. The amount to be distributed to the taxing units is frozen at or fixed at the $3,941,676. That's all we need to distribute to the units from levy freeze. Anything more than that is then an excess. And if you remember, the excess goes, if the council does nothing with the rate, if you do nothing with that .218 rate, then we'll have an excess next year of $747,686. And what will happen with that money will go into what is known as the stabilization fund. And the stabilization fund can only be used to supplement the levy freeze money if you fall short of the 3.9 million. Well, we're nowhere close to falling short of 3.9 million. So the possibility of needing that money ever for supplementing is nil to none. So it just sits there. It's not of any use to anyone. I mean, it just sits there. So it's would be wise to reduce the rate, the .218 rate. It would be wise to reduce that. So you say, how much can we reduce it by? Well, we go back to the top of that sheet, this sheet. There is a supplemental distribution amount that was received in May of $558,162. And there was legislation passed this session that gives the council the ability to designate that to go towards reducing the levy freeze rate. And I don't know if that ordinance has been presented yet tonight, Linda? No. So you have an ordinance being presented to you tonight where you're authorizing that supplement to be used for levy freeze rate reduction. Then the other amount that can be used is that $747,686, that calculation of the excess for next year. And so that amount plus that supplement both can go towards reducing the rate. So the total amount available to reduce the rate is $1,305,848. So what does that mean in terms of a rate? Well, it equates to a .061 rate. And how we get there is that if we if we go back down to that note 1 calculation, the third amount in that stair step or formula, that amount that the amount of the expenditure amount per $1, that $21,510,833. If we divide that into the $1,305,848, that will give us the rate equivalent. And that rate equivalent is .061. My advice would be just to round that off to .06. That's just to give us some wiggle room when DLGF reviews this and they don't quite agree with the calculations, and we got a little bit of wiggle room, you know, for that. But I recommend that you think about, or actually tonight you need to make some decisions, and the very last paragraph on this explains why you got to make it. Well, where it's advantageous that you make a decision tonight what to do with the .06. But my advice is that you reduce that levy freeze rate by .06. Now, what can you do with that? Well, there's a variety of things you can do with that money. Obviously, you could reduce the whole total lit rate. But quite honestly, reducing the rate by .06 would be so unnoticeable that no one would really see the difference in their income taxes that they're paying. And weighing that against what benefits can be gained with that money to, you know, my advice is that you reduce the rate, or you reduce the levy freeze rate, but you apply it to some other rate. The other rates that you can apply it to, one is the PSAP, that lit dedicated to PSAP. Well, you could put 5 cents of that 6 cents to that lit PSAP rate, that dedicated rate. You can only put 5 cents because there's the maximum rate you can have for the lit dedicated PSAP is 0.1. And we already have a 0.05 rate, so we could add another 0.05 and get to the 0.1. And then that would leave another 0.01 to do something with. And what could you do with that? You could take that to the lit economic development, or you could put that to the lit public safety. Now, the lit PSAP, the county would get 100% of that money, as that comes off the top to the county before it's allocated to any unit. And since you're not taking the 5 cents from some lit use, if you will, that units are already getting a share of, they're not getting a share of this levy freeze. Their share is the 3.9 that's capped out. And so there would be no reduction to any taxing unit on lit money being distributed to them. And the county would get the full 5 cents. And that 5 cents would result in additional $1,089,000 in PSAP money to the county, and that could possibly eliminate any tax rate for PSAP. So it could possibly eliminate any tax levy for PSAP. It especially would for this coming year, and maybe for some time in the future. But so that's enough money to eliminate the PSAP from property tax funding. And then you got that 1 cent left over. In my description here, I've got the 0.011, but in the amount for the public safety lit, the county receives 61.7% of that money. So whatever. 61.7%. The lit economic development lit, the county receives 62.2%. So whatever money you would shuffle over, if you will, to either one of those uses, the county wouldn't get 100%, but we'd get more than 50% of that. Those are some options. Another option is that you take that 0.06 and you put it all to lit public safety. But there, the county's not going to get 100% of that, but there, you're going to get the 61, whatever I said, 61%, 61.7%, or you could put it all over on the economic development. I think we can all pretty much agree that 2 areas of need is in public safety and in PSAP. And so those would be two wise decisions to either put the whole, either direct the whole 6.06 to that public safety, or take 0.05 or any number in between. The maximum rate you can allocate over to the lit PSAP is 0.05, because by statute that rate is maxed out or is limited to 2.1. So. But there needs to be some consensus as to what to do, because there are a couple things that Linda has to do with this. Is that we got to submit, or we should submit. It's not absolutely required, but it sure does pave the way. If we submit this to DLGF to review, to make certain that they agree with the calculations, they agree with the format of the ordinance, and that they agree with the format of the public notice. So we would submit to DLGF the ordinance, what the proposed ordinance would look like, what the proposed public notice would look like. We would also submit to them proof that the taxing units were made aware of a potential change in lit rates for 2024. That was done before the August 1 deadline or requirement. That was all done by certified mail, so we got documentation that got sent to the taxing units. And so that all gets bundled together and shipped off to DLGF. I mean, we could do that as quick as tomorrow or Wednesday, by at least Wednesday. To get them to begin reviewing it and making sure they're comfortable with it. The other thing is, even though you might come to a consensus tonight of what you want to do, it's not official until you have a public hearing. And the public hearing has to be advertised at least once, has to be published one time, at least 10 days before the meeting. And I think we decided that we were going to have or we were targeting or shooting for, if you will, was it the September council meeting that we were shooting for as far as the public hearing for the lit changes, if you've made any? Don't have to do it at that meeting. We've got until you have until the end of October to do this. But if we wait, we're going to be cutting it close if we wait till then, and if we have the nightmare we had last year with the publication not being in the paper. Having it in September gives us some breathing room. If we find out we didn't get it published, the paper didn't get it published again, then we still have October to do that. But the rate change has to occur by the end of October for it to become effective next year. And so that's probably all I have to say about that.
Dan, we sure appreciate you explaining it to us
Yes, thank you.
in terms that we can understand.
But that's what's before you is first deciding, do we want to reduce the lit levy freeze rate? If you do, what amount you want to reduce it by? And then secondly, what do you want to do with that reduced rate? And once you've made that decision, then that would give us the guidance to use to submit to DLGF and get the ball rolling. So.
Okay.
Or you might decide you don't want to do anything and.
In the ordinance we have, I think this has to come first, correct?
Yeah, that has to come, that will go with the ordinance that's before you is the ordinance authorizing using the May or the 2023 supplemental distribution amount of the $558,162, that top number in this whole list of numbers. This ordinance that Linda has is that if the council approves it, authorizes that money be used for the lit rate reduction. That would go in the package and bundle, if you will, that would go to DLGF for them to review. The thing that they asked me when I talked to them earlier in the summer, when I was kind of brainstorming and telling them what I thought we could do, they liked it. But they asked that, please give us the flow of things of what you want to do, where the money's coming from and the calculations and all. But we'll do that when we submit that for DLGF's review. But I will shut up now and let you discuss among yourselves.
Here's the ordinance.
We've got the ordinance here to look at if you want to.
The other rate that you said that we could possibly use this on? We don't have to make decisions on it. Okay.
Okay, voting for it tonight.
And to,
Give DLG time.
anybody want to look at that, the ordinance? Comments? Confusion?
All the above.
Need to do this, right, to maximize the versatility of that money, right?
Right.
And I think the recommendation is pretty sound. It just is going, what we decide depends on where we're going to allocate that 0.6 and how we're gonna do it, like
And it-
5 cents into
Right.
PSAP.
The ordinance is, that we're looking at here is the 558,162, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
The May 2023
Right,
supplemental.
supplemental distribution. And we, whether we want to use that for the lit rate reduction. So that'd be the first part of it, so that they can get that to the DLGF. But, yeah, what are your thoughts on, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Melissa. Go right ahead.
No. I mean, this is just an open conversation, and I'm still wrapping my head around some of this, so. So that's the first step we need to do, is to agree to do that. I think we have to do it,
It makes
right?
perfect sense.
Right,
I mean,
makes
why-
sense.
I guess I say, why wouldn't we do it?
Right.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate that Dan has stayed on.
Yes, we are.
And is helping with this. And I want y'all to know, his part-time rate is only $14.53 an hour? He's worth a lot more than that.
Yes, he is.
Conversation.
I want a raise.
That might be a good time.
Yeah. Have your paperwork ready.
You know, last year I attempted to use that accumulated excess money that we have on hand of a few $1 million, to use that to reduce the rate. And I mapped out how we could reduce the rate down to here. And over time, with an estimated 2% increase in the revenue, blah, 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 we could go out to 2030 or beyond. I don't know, 2032, somewhere in there, that we could go out before we would have ever get to the point that we were going to have to then start pulling money, that the rate would then bring in what we needed. And DLGF, they agreed with that. They said your calculations are good, but we can't do that because statute doesn't let us look at anything other than the current revenue. We can't look at that, which is nonsense. But anyway, that's the statute. So then the attempt, and Rod carried it to the legislature, the attempt was to get the legislators to change or amend the statute to allow DLGF to look at that accumulated money and all, and so that got down close to the end of the session, and just couldn't get all the legislators that were needed to buy into that. They were nervous about turning counties loose to use that money, and with the fear that they're going to get themselves in trouble down the road and not have money to distribute to the taxing units, and so the taxing units would suffer from something that they didn't do, the county did. And that's understandable because this particular lit rate in history has such horror stories as that in some counties. And so that's where the compromise that came in was, okay, we won't let you divvy into that, but any surplus or supplemental distributions you get, we won't make you put that into that accumulated balance. You can use that to reduce that. So the 558,000 was a compromise. But we're still sitting on, I forgot to look at the balance, but it's some ridiculous, it's over 5 million or 7 or something. I forgot, but it's a ridiculous amount of money. But anyway, just so you understand, why that amount went, and that's why. But that doesn't mean we're not going to keep trying, because we need to be able to use that money. I mean, we need to be able to use that money, and so we'll try again. But
Yes, thank you, Dan. Okay. Good.
Anybody willing to go forward tonight on that? I would like to see us go forward.
I am too.
Ordinance number on this, but.
Linda will sign it.
Just to make clear, the ordinance that you have all tonight is just to include the supplemental distribution within the calculation that Dan did.
Right.
The allocation is not what we're talking about tonight. That's good food for thought. We're going to talk about it with Reedy.
Have to make a decision on the allocation tonight.
Not tonight, just, Dan did the homework and he found out with the new statute, if we don't specifically tell DLGF that we want to include the supplemental distribution that was in May, supplemental distributions moving forward can automatically be included. We have to affirmatively say we're including this, which is what the ordinance is for tonight. So that's what you do need to take action on if you want to include that in your calculation.
18.
18, or just 18?
18.
Vicky Kivett makes a motion that we approve ordinance number 18 as was passed around tonight in regards to a resolution of Morgan County, Indiana, directing the supplemental tax distribution to be first used to lower the county's levy freeze and tax rate.
Jason Maxwell seconds.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. So don't anyone leave because we have to sign these this evening.
There's plenty of stuff to pass down and sign.
Put that with it then. So back to our agenda. Was there any, was this something else? Or was that?
That is this report.
Okay, and are you going to talk to us about that?
I can.
All right, we've got next on the agenda is the estimated property tax levy limits and circuit breaker reduction review. That's this sheet. And Linda's going to talk to us about that.
These are just numbers that the DLGF has projected for the estimated max levies. It's just for a review by the county council. I think Dan said in the past, you've just asked that all units stay within their max levies. But it's just something that we have to have in the minutes that the council has reviewed this report.
Okay. And there's no violators, correct?
We don't know yet.
So do we just acknowledge that this is received? Okay. Want to make a motion?
I don't think we need to make a motion, do we?
Do we need to make a motion?
Just acknowledge that we received it. Yeah.
Let the record show this has been received. We don't have to make a vote on it, so. Deb, will you make note of that? Thank you very much. And I was looking for our September meeting. Are we, yeah, I was going to say, I knew it was, okay. So our September meeting will be September the 13th at 6:30. And I think that was due to the Labor Day holiday, wasn't it? Yeah. So if there's anything else that needs to come before the council this evening?
Yeah, did you have something? Brian?
Okay. Oh, yeah, he had that. What did I do with that? What did I do?
This thing here. Taft.
There is one other option that there is you can also have a lit correctional facility rate that we don't have, but we could create that by moving whatever amount of the 6 cents you want to move to that. We need to reduce it by 6 cents, or otherwise we lose it. If you don't reduce it by the full 6 cents, if you leave let's say you reduce it by 4 cents and you leave 2 cents on the table, then that 2 cents is going to go in this excess fund, and you never can touch it unless the legislators let you later. There is a correctional rate. I mean, if you want to delay deciding until, say, one of your August budget meetings, that'd be okay, because we'd still be able to make the end of October. You may have to have a special meeting in October, or you could do it at your October budget adoption meeting. But the thing is about the lead time we need is sort of large in the fact that DLGF has by statute, they have 30 days to review. So if they would take the full 30 days, then that pushes us down the road. And then after they've reviewed, and hopefully they say, yeah, it all looks good, you're good to go, then we have to submit it to the paper, and we got to wait probably 20 days before you can have a meeting for that. So but there is a correctional facility rate, and I think they want to talk to you about that.
So I apologize. I hadn't talked with Dan about this yet because I thought we still had more time. I just started talking about this with Reedy a little bit. So there is the lit correctional rate. Like the PSAP rate, it's a rate that we could scrape 100% off, not have to distribute it through to the underlying municipal corporations, which they don't get today. If you've looked at your packet from Reedy, we have a lot of cum cap expenses earmarked for the jail, quite a few. And so instead of spending down the cum cap to cover those, which we have for other needs as well, one possible solution would be to allocate that extra amount above what you fund PSAP over to the lit correctional facility rate. And then everything that you reduced, you would capture 100% and not pass through to anybody else. That way you leverage the amount.
And this is a tax that's already being collected, so it's not like we're
Right.
issuing new bonds, we're not issuing a new tax, we're not taxing, so we're shifting.
It's using what we already have and shifting it, yes.
And can all 6 cents like go into that, or 0.6?
I don't know what the max rate for that is. You guys certainly can decide how you want to distribute it. I do think if you want to lessen your burden on the max levy, you need to put some of it towards PSAP if you want to get close to fully funding it from there. But I don't know what the rate is max off the top of my head. Do you know, Dan?
I'm not sure what that max is. It's probably 5 cents, or it could be 0.1. It could be 5 or 10. I doubt it. I don't know. It could be more.
I was just curious. I mean, we don't have to make that decision right now, but I did notice that we were, only a few counties are taking advantage of that correctional tax, right?
Right.
Okay, that's why I was wondering why we weren't
And
why.
we have a fairly high lit rate, so I don't know that we would necessarily tack that rate onto something else if we weren't redistributing it.
Right.
And this could help with some of the jail problems that are just beginning to discuss. And then, we've talked about this for years. Yes. And Dan, again, we were trying to have a conversation real quick, so we apologize because this is not scripted. But in the following year, we may be able to shave this down, reduce it again.
I think that for a few years, you'll be able to revisit this each year. Now, for how many years, hard to say. But as incomes grow, then just the amount of money coming to the county from our rate is going to increase. And so let's hope we look at this for the next, every year for the next 10 to 15 years. We've got a good economy going. But whatever the case, I think that you'll be looking at this again.
Which will help with the redistributing and possibly putting more towards the jail. If we don't max out the PSAP, say 1 year, do part of the 6 and start the jail fund, we can put more in the jail in the future year, which later, when we eventually have to do a new jail, we can have some money there that maybe we won't have to bond as much outside or some form of additional tax. Does that make sense?
It does.
This is very dynamic, and it's, being a councilman for 23 years, it's overwhelming for me, but it's also overwhelming for the commissioners to know that all these capital projects that we've waited on need to be, we're gonna have to get creative. And this is a creative way of not increasing taxes, and yet moving things around and utilizing the tax dollars that our citizens are paying now.
True. Mhm. But I think it's a way of being good stewards of that, the
Absolutely.
funds that are already there, yeah, yeah. Mhm. So. Okay, so what else do you need from us this evening?
Dan's
Okay,
good with the
and we've
timeline,
done that.
then
Yes, we did.
Yes, yes, we passed the ordinance.
Relatively new is that?
Did they pass the percentage?
We
Did they
didn't,
pass the percentage?
no, we've not, that's what I'm
Last
asking.
5
What-
years or so?
2018.
Okay.
But I think they have to also pass the.
But I think there's a second part to this.
Yeah, we did pass the ordinance, but not
Was the rate in
percentage.
the ordinance of a reduction?
No, all they're doing with the ordinance tonight is authorizing the $558,000
Okay.
to be used.
They can wait and do it at budget session.
And
And we did do
no
that.
percentages
Do
or
that,
anything?
that
Yeah.
passed,
Okay,
yes,
that passed.
unanimously.
Okay.
If they're okay with that, we may not meet the targeted September date, but rather be a few weeks later, then they don't really need to make any decisions.
Well, we don't want to put you behind the 8 ball on any of that, so I mean, if there's anything else we do need to vote on this evening, we'll be glad to do that. Okay. Okay,
I need a copy of that.
Won't be having the ordinance to adopt the new rates at September meeting.
okay. Okay,
I'd rather let these guys have a little more conversation and come back with what is.
I agree,
the-
Brian.
The
Good point.
maximized options.
we appreciate your digging in and working on that too, and having it for us.
And not to muddy the waters, but is there any more questions on that? Because we'll come back and
I don't think so.
have more of a formal presentation.
Do you want to talk
Just-
about
just-
what you sent it?
No, I got a few
Okay.
things to, I feel part of the responsibility of Josh and Commissioner Adams and Commissioner Hale and myself is to make sure that our council knows everything that's going on. So just a couple things that, my 2 cents, as long as there's a strong resale market on vehicles, what you guys did in your first transactions will continue to work. If the secondary market falls out, we'll be viewing, because it's been such a strong market for used vehicles that we're getting what would have been considered a large premium in years past.
Yes.
Which is allowing the fleet to rotate at a much less expensive cost to the taxpayer. So just an asterisk on that. I don't know if the market stays that strong, if we can always do that. Economic Development had a really neat meeting a week ago on Thursday. Going back to the aquifer study and the wastewater study, one of the people in attendance, and what this meeting was an economic development meeting per se about developing a development up north part of the county, but one person represented and had access to tons of labs that come in, and she was like a liaison with people that form corporations that have a lot of labs. Her one question was, well, how much water do you guys have? So again, we're being proactive. We're being proactive to address the challenges that come into you. When you get an opportunity, when they look and go, you guys know anything about your water, your water? Yeah, we're doing a $1.2 million study. Unlike most of the other 92 counties, there's only a handful that might be doing this. So kudos on staying on board on that. As I jump and I digress. This is the new book I just got when I walked in today.
We did too.
Dan was in attendance. Dan has spoiled us. Might be one of the few times I compliment Mr. Baston. He has spoiled me over the years with his spreadsheets, and I got very accustomed to how he would present budgets to me. And then if you go down to my office in the back room, I have a whole filing cabinet, and I can go back to the Dan budgets and our notes from year to year to year to year to year to year. Several years, I just never threw them away. So this, I was noticing, I'm like, where is Dan's spreadsheet?
Dan's spreadsheets are not there.
So, Dan and I are having a lot of meetings in the back because I don't know what he's gonna charge me to get the spreadsheets, but it's through his spreadsheets that I'm comfortable in looking at changes and understanding,
We
and I
have the
understand this
Reedy
is new.
financial spreadsheet is in there.
Right, right, but I don't like Dan, but I do like Dan's spreadsheets.
I don't think.
I also talked to Dan again a little bit about, and I always believe in setting the stage. I've talked to the auditor that came in and audited, privately, besides her not understanding my sense of humor on, did you find what I'm hiding? They do not like that. You look and go, have you found it yet? What am I supposed to be looking for? I'm not telling you. As much as you're charging us, you should be finding it. But on a side note, she told us how fortunate we are to have a Dan Baston with his knowledge and his past. And I have argued this from day one. I think the most important position in all of county government is the auditor. So I compliment you in a public meeting to know that I think you had large shoes to fill, and I think you're doing an excellent job. But we're also blessed to still have him on the sidelines and dragging him in. So when we get in to budget time, I hope we coerce him into continuing to help. I
We
would feel a whole
appreciate
lot
you,
better.
Dan. But we're not paying for your spreadsheets.
I might, just so I know so I can be funny and know what I'm saying. Another thing today, did Mark already leave? He did. Okay. Mark and his team, it was presented to us. I am the chairman of the EMA Advisory Board. Kudos to them and their team. They were handed a lot during the tornado, and they were given like 2008 spreadsheets to fill out, and they were given this and that, and then FEMA came in and gave them this and that. They revamped it. They came up with their own, and now the state's pretty much adopting them.
They've adopted those spreadsheets as the standard and are sending it out to counties affected in the recent storms.
Woo, good job.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
That just gave me goosebumps.
Again, Morgan County's taking the lead. I'm excited.
Yes.
We're doing great things, and people are talking about us for the right reasons. So, again, my point tonight, coming up here and being a little long-winded, was to make sure that we're on the same page. And last but not least, you were presented, so for review, we don't have to go too far in depth, but this is the next the next phase. And as you can see, by August 7th, that we've already got a timetable based upon what we've been told by the experts. So we're already a little bit behind. So Josh and I talked about making sure that you got this in hand, and next month we'll probably be doing a lot more discussion on the pros and the cons and how you feel and how I can ease everybody as we look at the next phase of this 4-phase bot. Do you have any questions? Comments, concerns? Probably won't have an answer, but I could research it before the next time we get together. And I may, based upon the timetable, just reach out to some of you just to make sure that you're comfortable with it.
I would like an update on where we're at in our construction phase.
Well, I don't know who
when
the
we're ready.
idiot was that made me park in the back row today during the torrential downpour. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, then the obstacle course. Well, as you can see, we're under full construction. We did, and they have moved out. We're waiting for asbestos mitigation, is that what they call it?
Yeah, historic.
A clearance from the state that we can go ahead and tear this down, then we're gonna get that parking lot going as quickly as possible. That will help, especially with the handicap parking. We've also approached the city about possibly right out here having more handicap, it's the parallel parking, but making it handicap.
Over
with
here on the
one-
side?
Yes, with one loading zone. It might not, the early bird that works for the county that doesn't have any mobility problems that's getting there may not be happy with us, but I'm trying to accommodate. And certain things, just go back to being complimentary. Josh has worked hard along with others to take what monies we have in the banks, and they're raising those interest rates. I don't know if you guys have been presented that. But the additional funds that we get on stuff like that, like, we need a light out here. I didn't think about it. None of us have thought about that. But when you have the Purdue Extension having programs, right now it's not a big deal because it's still light enough when you go back out. But in just a couple months, when it gets dark at 7 o'clock and they don't leave until 9 o'clock, we have to put, and we're looking, do we put it onto the existing building? Do we put it out on one of the temporary poles? But just little things. So it's a work in progress, but we've not deviated much from the master plan. And I think it's going really, really well. And Josh sits in on a lot more of the construction meetings, as does Commissioner Adams. Is that every Thursday or every other Thursday? Every other Thursday for updates. But I think it's going really, really well.
Good.
And I'll address Vicki real fast. To Brian's point, it did go well. I'm very thankful. It's a big budget, and it came in right on target. The city's doing a similar process. They're doing their new police station. They're trying to figure out how to cut about $1 million. They're close, and so they're still going to get a good project. But thankfully, we didn't have nearly as many hardships in what we were doing. But you're not going to see a ton of difference right now, Vicki. You asked what the update is. We'll get the parking lot going. Storm structures are going in around our parking lot for what's going to be picking up the new roofs, tie into the city's lines. Then foundations will start going in, and you probably won't see any steel start to go up until late October.
Still, that's pretty
Not
quick.
far away,
Yeah,
though.
that's not far away
Yeah,
at all.
and then pretty short thereafter, late December, maybe into January, you'll probably see the framing done, and then they'll start enclosing stuff.
Well,
Exciting.
I personally do not like all the curbs in the parking lot. I think that was a little excessive, and if you got longer vehicles trying to pull in and out of those spots, it's a little bit tight. I would like to see the ADA lot over here not have those, but I understand that's probably that's probably already in the works. But I don't know why we can't just have a flat lot where people can pull forward or back or whatever and just eliminate some of that expense and obstacle. That's my view. If none of you have drove out here in the back row, go do that. And, other than
Not
that,
like code, is it required?
It just depends on the application and what space you need to, separate. And, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
somebody thought maybe it was MSR4, am I saying that right?
MS4, no.
MS4 guidelines?
unrelated to that.
I said, I don't think so, we had a flat lot before, so.
Good point.
And
That's a smaller lot, so we probably won't have, I'm not anticipating all the curbs and everything.
I think Josh thought there would be.
There's some curbs for separation in the middle to help break up the lot in half. But minimal. It's not nearly as much as what you have right here.
out here where that fence is like coming to the corner of our building, if there could be some stepping stones or something to make that sidewalk a little continuous, where they've closed off the drive or pull-through between the buildings used to be. If you're in a wheelchair coming south,
Don't they have that sidewalk closed?
Yeah, that sidewalk is closed. We put that fence across there because we had a handful of people trying to walk along the sidewalk, even though it was closed. There was some people that got hurt falling. And so we made it more explicit that you need to take a different path.
Yeah, it's not a
so it's
working
your
sidewalk.
intention not to have them walk from like the bank down here.
Until
this side.
later in the phase, there's a separation in grade of about 7 inches. And so you won't see this open back up until all the site's redone.
I'm just thinking ahead to tax time and election time.
Yeah,
You'll have a lot of more aged
yeah, for this
people
year,
entering the building.
that won't be able to be accommodated for this year, unfortunately.
But have they looked ahead to
It has to do with the
2024, May 2024?
Oh, yeah, when the building's ready to go, it'll be all set. If you look in that corner, the sidewalk corner is already in, but it can't tie back to anything until
Okay.
all the final grading and stuff is ready.
All right, well, thanks for the update.
It'll be growing pains until spring of 2025 when we cut the ribbon.
Yeah.
And I've asked, do we move elections to a different building versus this one, and, you know, fortunately, a lot that pay property taxes now do it either online or via the mail. And we'll probably have some type of campaign to encourage by the mail because of the lack of access versus what we've easily done in the past.
All good points. All right.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that needs to come before the council this evening?
Everybody Monday.
We thank you all for being here. Yes, budget review starts Monday, so we will be back here. And again, our next meeting is September the 13th at 6:30. So, nothing else. I look for a motion to adjourn.
Brian Copel make a motion to adjourn?
Kim Meredith, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. There, you can read those clips. Monday is, I think, Monday's 8:30. Monday and Tuesday are 8:30.
I doubt it.
All right, don't everybody leave. We have lots of signatures.
For the 21st, are you bringing those?
Request those.
Sausage things?
Yeah.
You putting them down?
Wrong again.
Did I do that?
It's Merideth. Should I, can I sign it the right way?
Yeah, sign it the right way.
Okay.
I am so sorry. I'm in trouble.
You got it right. Somebody got it right here.
That's me.
One guy told me today, he goes, well, you're all backwards. I said, well, kinda.
Well, and Vicki and I are all